Slides going. All right, how we all doing? Let's go. Let's get some energy. We got Bitcoin ripping right now. So, yeah, like they said, I'm Brandon. I'm founder of Green Candle. I'm gonna be talking to you guys a little bit about why Bitcoin is a safe haven in hyperinflation. So, yeah, let's get it going here. All right, next slide. All right, yeah, so we've got the price ripping here. So how can we not be bullish going forward? I mean, I've even had a bunch of people coming up to me, local El Salvadorians who have not, who were not accepting Bitcoin last year when I was here, that are bringing up price, excited to accept Bitcoin this year. So hopefully, this shows you guys a little bit as to, why Bitcoin is such a safe haven, get you a little bit more bullish going forward, and get you guys excited. So, we got a clicker, perfect. Thank you, sir. All right, so first off, what is hyperinflation? Hyperinflation is the rapid increase of pricing, 50% month over month. So there's been a few situations of this. It's, rapid price increase, loss of purchasing power, a lot of economic instability, and, just overall issues in the government and the underlying currency. So a lot of people are maybe thinking, what did I push here? I don't know, little technical difficulties. We'll get it going. But yeah, so what is hyperinflation? Loss of currency, or loss of purchasing power, rapid pricing increases, and much more. Just overall loss of confidence. So you might be thinking, this sounds crazy. This has never happened, right? But it's happened multiple times in the past. One great example is Weimar Germany. Another is Hungary in 1945 to 46. So you might also be thinking, well, that's a long time away, right? This, happened 80 something years ago, so this won't happen again. Well, we actually have Venezuela going through hyperinflation currently while we're sitting here, and Zimbabwe, in 2007, 2008. So there's a lot of there's a lot of examples of this that has happened in the past, not just these four. These are just four of the more recent ones and the ones that really stick out and come to mind. I don't know, I can't, getting this one next. Okay, so what are some of the causes of hyperinflation? Everybody knows this GIF here from Bitcoin Twitter, or, everybody's staring around. So it's obvious, right? It's the rapid amount of money printing. But some of the other things that cause it are maybe lack of tax revenue, some, economic issues, maybe resulting in a supply shock, or some of these other issues here. So, although money printing is the big one that comes to mind, there are a few other causes of hyperinflation and what can cause it. So, I don't know. This clicker is not working on me right now. So, maybe have some. Can you get the next slide for me? Apologies for the technical difficulties we got going on here. Got it. I don't know where the clicker's not working for me right now. So I don't know if we got, yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, so yeah, next slide for me too. So yeah, you might be thinking, all right, 50% month over month, that's not enough to cause, or we're not currently in hyperinflation. But since 2020, we've printed 40% of the money supply, and we've seen rapid amounts of inflation already. But you might be saying, a lot of the economic data that we're seeing is not necessarily pointing to that. But if you could go to the next slide. This is a great website I like to check out. It's Govflation. So the US rapidly started changing how they calculated and presented CPI back in 1982. They've been changing it ever since. So you can see it tracks, relatively well. But, the reported CPI and highest inflation that we saw year over year was 9.06% according to the governmental data. Well, if we went back to 1982, how they calculated, it peaked at 17, so nearly double. And if you look at the end here, it's reportedly at 2.5% according to CPI, but according to the 1982 calculation, because they've revised the numbers again, we're still sitting at 10%. So inflation is not over, despite what they might be telling you in the news and everything like that, right? So, we've even got, the current economic state. You can go to the next slide, perfect. So this is according to Tuesday, where we're sitting at 35.9 trillion. I was just backstage looking at the numbers. We've surpassed $36 trillion worth of debt. So this is a rapidly increasing problem and getting worse by the day. I printed this out on Tuesday and we're already, 36 trillion and climbing. If you guys go to this, it's usdebtclock.org. You'll look at the numbers, you'll get nauseous just looking at the numbers, seeing how quickly it's rising and increasing. So despite what they might be saying, some of these causes of hyperinflation, we're a little bit closer than you might think. And so obviously we're all here, Bitcoiners trying to find the solution. And some of the things that can happen when hyperinflation is occurring is, they can lock bank accounts, they can, supply shock. So if you're having difficult finding some food, finding some fresh produce, a lot of things, and it can cause a lot of civil unrest as well. So, the money affects basically everything, right? So, next slide for me, please. So, how do you avoid this? How are you going to protect yourself with your family, your business, maybe even a country? Like, how can people avoid this? Next slide, please. So, previously, it was gold, right? We're getting hard assets, whether it's real estate, gold. Some people think traditional stock market equities. Maybe you park your money in another place. Well, what's wrong with all of that? You need somebody that's going to verify gold. It's hard to transact. If I bring a gold bar into here right now and I try to pay and get coffee, what are they going to do? They're going to look at me like I'm absolutely crazy, right? So next slide. But of course, Bitcoin fixes this. Bitcoin is the safe haven asset. Bitcoin is peer-to-peer electronic cash. Bitcoin provides a solution that we've never seen before in mankind, in human history, the hardest money that we have absolutely ever seen. So, Bitcoin, you might think, okay, it could save you, but it also saves countries as well. El Salvador, we're here, Bitcoin country, Satoshi's country. Nayib Bukele put the country on a Bitcoin standard a few years ago, and this is the first time since recent memory that a country has proposed their next balance for the following year for 2025 and proposed not taking on any more debt. So you see the US, the national debt clock rapidly climbing. Right? Well, imagine if that just halted. Imagine if that halted and we were able to pay off the US debt. We would have stronger underlying fiat currency, but instead everything is inflating away. That's what they're doing here in El Salvador. They're on a Bitcoin standard, so it is helping the rapid increase, the development. It's absolutely gorgeous here. You see construction going on, a lot of positive signs going on here in El Salvador, and a big part of that is because of Bukele putting them on a Bitcoin standard. So that is going to continue. El Salvador is going to prosper because of this move, putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet, utilizing it as a legal tender, and Bukele just keeps buying. And he tweeted out earlier this week, "I told you so." And a big part of that is because the recent price increase we've seen and their investment kind of coming to fruition. Next slide, please. So, can Bitcoin save the US? I know, we're here in El Salvador, but, the US has proposed under President Trump getting a strategic reserve of Bitcoin, utilizing that. They have RFK in the cabinet, a lot of Bitcoiners in there realizing this problem. So I know Trump was in office from 2016 to 2020, but now that he's coming in 24 to 28, it's going to be a very interesting next 4 years to see how this develops and see how this plays out as far as utilizing Bitcoin and maybe, prolonging the US dollar's reign and not getting to that hyperinflation stage yet. Not quite sure how much they're going to buy on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. But it seems very encouraging that, the US is understanding that this is an issue. Inflation is drastically hurting people across the globe because we're on a US dollar standard currently. So in order to help, avoid hyperinflation globally in small countries first, and then getting to larger countries, the US is going to start to move towards a Bitcoin standard. Now, whether they make it legal tender or not is time to tell, but putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet is the first step of emulating what Bukele has already lined out. And, as you guys are traveling around here, be sure to talk to some of the locals and see how Bitcoin has changed, their experience of everything. They're seeing a lot more tourism, a lot of positives. So Bitcoin not only can be a safe haven asset for yourself, your family, and everything else, but for countries. Next slide, please. And, Michael Saylor, right? He's the Giga Chad of them all. Bitcoin can save businesses. MicroStrategy was a zombie company a few years ago. Michael Saylor was talking about hanging it up. He was a CEO of a publicly traded company listed on the NASDAQ. He made his money. He was thinking about hanging it up. The company was making steady revenue. Nothing new or exciting was really happening. Well, he made the move to start to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. He's using traditional financial tools to continue to buy Bitcoin and continue to stack that. And so now what has been the result? Bitcoin, or MicroStrategy, has been the best performing stock in the S&P 500 this entire year. Ever since they started implementing that, it's beaten, the darlings of the stock market, whether it's Nvidia or some of these other tech stocks. And it's just rapidly increasing and valuing his company. And what does he keep doing? Michael Saylor keeps doubling down, keeps getting more and more Bitcoin on the balance sheet of MicroStrategy, and the company has then, prospered. It allows them to, invest into other aspects to grow their business, take more risks, keep employees on during some of the volatility that occurs, and overall just protect themselves from potentially hyperinflation, right? Whether wages need to increase, a lot of other things need to increase, the underlying expenses. Bitcoin is being used to help MicroStrategy continue to prosper. Next slide, please. So there's been more copycats coming. As we're already seeing with Bukele, coming up, people copying El Salvador. There's people starting to copy Michael Saylor. We've had Michael Dell, one of the biggest companies in the US, Dell Technologies, starting to talk about Bitcoin. We've had a few like Similar Scientific, DeFi Technologies. Some of these other smaller companies start to emulate a MicroStrategy type of Bitcoin strategy. And what has that resulted in? It's resulted in a massive skyrocket in their stock price in the short term, but it's also helping them stack here initially. A lot of those companies implemented this technique when Bitcoin was at 60,000 earlier this year. So we're sitting here around 90,000. That investment is already up 50%. It gives those companies more runway. It allows them to take more risks. It allows them to, be more steady with everything as well. So it's just overall just an excellent strategy in order to, keep the companies prospering and, keep companies moving forward because, with the fiat system that we're currently in, everything inflating away, everything's getting more expensive, whether it's gas, whether it's employees, whether it's just the general overall, underlying expenses. That CapEx expenditures just keeps increasing as we're feeling on a personal level, on a country level, and on a business level is all increasing. And so in order to avoid that, implementing a Bitcoin strategy, no matter where you're at, can help you prosper in the future. So next slide, please. So yeah, to wrap it all up, Bitcoin is for everybody. Your friends, your enemies, for yourself, your family, for governments to help increase and maybe help the countries prosper and make it a more useful place for people to live, seeing the prosperity, all these different things. And also for businesses to help keeping people employed, for businesses to help everything keep moving forward. So, I talk a lot about this at my channels in Green Candle. If you could go to the last slide. So if you guys want to follow along, I am Green Candle IT, and wherever you get social media, you can follow along my podcast where I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people in the Bitcoin space, and a lot of other people. You can get it at YouTube or audio. Search Green Candle Investments podcast. And yeah, I talk to a lot of people about how they can implement this personally on a business and on a country level to keep everything moving forward. So I appreciate your time, and thank you guys for coming out, and hope to see and interact with a lot of you at this conference here this week. So thank you.